Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. My name is Mark Roden, and in today's video, we are doing the good, the bad, and the ugly on the BMW 3 Series E46. Now, when I say 3 Series, I mean pretty much every trim level on that. So if you have a 3 Series that is, a specific one, like a 318i E46, well, it's going to be in this video. Now, however, I want to get this out of the way real quick. Just because I'm talking about all generation, like all trim levels, that's kind of, it's kind of like a generalized statement when I get into the uglies and the bads and stuff like that, because it's kind of hard to say, like one car obviously might have a much more reliable motor than a different one. Like the 328i might be much more reliable than the 330ci, or the 330ci might be much more reliable than the M3. But then the M3 is much more powerful. So when I go over like the good, bad, and ugly parts of it, it's just kind of a generalized statement on just the chassis of the car. But in case you're new here, the way that these videos work is first I go over everything you kind of need to know about the car, just the stats about it, the important information about it. Then I go into what the community usually does in terms of modifying it, and then I get into the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we'll go over that when we get to it. And then at the end of the video, I tell you whether or not I believe you should buy it, depending on the current situation that you're in. Without further ado, let's go right into the good, the bad, and the ugly on the BMW E46. Alright, partner, the BMW E46, let's go over this bad boy. Let's go over first, obviously, all the information that you should probably just know about the car. First up is the years made and the generation of it. It was made from 1997 to 2006, and it is the fourth generation of the BMW 3 Series line. 1997 to 2006 means that there's 9 years of E46s out there, so don't let idiot boy McGee on Facebook Marketplace tell you that it's really rare, bro, there's not a lot of them out there anymore. No, there's a ton of them out there. Don't let them lie to you. Trim levels, let's go over these real quick. This is going to take a very long time. Okay, 316i, this is going in ascending order in terms of performance, by the way. 316i, 318i, 320i, 323i, 325i, 328i, and 330i, and then obviously the M3, which also had its own certain generate, like M3 GTR, M3 CS, but we're not going to go over that. We're just going to go over the M3 just in general. But either way, all these definitely matter, but for the sake of this video and my personal sanity, let's only talk about the most popular options, which in my opinion are the 325i, 328i, 330i, and the M3. Anybody that has a 318i, 316i, 323, 320i, whatever, I'm sorry, but I just really feel like most people aren't going to care too much about those cars. First up is the 325i, which comes with a 2.5 liter inline 6, and it makes 189 horsepower. Pretty good starting point, but obviously not anything super impressive. The 328i comes with a 2.8 liter inline 6, and that one makes 190 horsepower. Wow, one more horsepower more than the 325i. Don't waste all your money away, partner. Okay, don't do that. If you're not going to plan on building up the motor, just buy a 325i. 330i comes with a 3 liter inline 6, and that one makes 225 horsepower. That's obviously much better than the other two, much more sporty, but also much more expensive. And finally, the M3 comes with a 3.2 liter inline 6, making 338 horsepower. That's very obviously insane. Like, that's a very good horsepower number. 90s sedan making 338 horsepower. Good, God bless you, BMW. That was pretty cool. Also, if the name has a C or an X in it, then they also mean different things. A C means that it's a coupe or a convertible, and the X means that it is all-wheel drive instead of rear-wheel drive. That's just a generalized statement for BMWs everywhere nowadays. Anyone that has XI instead of just I is all-wheel drive. And for some reason, they only did this with the E46, but if it has a C in it, it means that it's a coupe or a convertible. Just an FYI. Now, the body styles, though. The car comes with pretty much every body style you could want. A sedan, a wagon, a compact, convertible, a coupe, it doesn't matter. Has all of them. The compact is incredibly ugly. The convertible is actually surprisingly cool. BMW has always gotten their convertible models really well, in my opinion, actually. The coupe is obviously the most wanted. Sedan makes the most sense in terms of practicality. And then wagon is just baller as hell. If you build up a wagon E46, God bless you. Drivetrains. The car is rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. No front-wheel drive options, and that is a good thing. Transmissions. Automatic and manual options are available for this car because, duh, I feel like I say that in every one of my good, bad, and uglies for the transmissions. It's not like it's not anything super special, but nowadays it kind of is, because new cars are coming out and not a single one of them have manual transmission. What's going on? What's going on with that? Now, the price. Obviously, these are used cars, so the price varies heavily depending on trim level, quality, miles, all kinds of things that the car. But in reality, you can find them anywhere from 1K to 10K. Again, it depends heavily on what you're looking for. If you're looking for an M3 with low mileage, you're not touching one for less than 30K. If you're looking for just a 328i with average 100,000 miles on it, you can find one for around 4K, 5K. If you're looking for a 330Ci with the same amount of miles, you're looking at like 7K. If you're looking for a 323i with the same amount of miles, maybe like 2K, 3K. It obviously just depends, it really does on the quality of the car. For the reliability and the gas mileage, it's very reliable, but also depends on the trim level. Again, every trim level is going to be different. Gas mileage is obviously depends as well, but for a 328i, which I think is going to be probably the most common one that people are buying, if I had to guess, it gets 22 miles per gallon combined. And in terms of its reliability for a 328i, it's pretty decent average, I would say. I mean, it's a German car, so keep that in mind. You got to take good care of it. You can't just treat it like it's a Camry. It won't react well to that. But if you do, it'll be okay. All right, finally, we're done with all the basic info on the car. Let's get into the community side of things. What do people do when modifying it? Well, for drifting, it is very, very popular. Probably its most popular application. These cars are turned into drift cars literally all the time, and for good reason. They're cheap, rear-wheel drive, handle power decently well, and they're pretty cool looking. A lot of the M3 parts snap right onto the base models, so people like to buy them for drifting. For rally / off-road builds or whatever, it has been seen slightly before just because BMW is pretty much puts their cars in any motorsport that they can, but it's definitely not the most seen car out there. If you see an E46 at a rally event, it's going to be pretty rare. For street racing, again, has been seen before, but not super popular. These cars are kind of turning into the M3s, at least, are kind of turning into collector's cars, and the people that are buying them are taking them to the tracks, not just street racing them. And then the other ones that aren't M3s are just sadly just don't have enough power potential to play with the big boys on the streets. For track racing, very, very popular. Literally any BMW was always just made for track performance, and so obviously people that buy the high performance BMWs take them to the track, and for good reason. They handle really well. Pretty cool. For stance / so builds, again, it's seen quite a bit, but people are starting to go away from this route and making it more performance oriented, which I think is a good thing. The E46 is a really well handling little platform. I love that about it, and the fact that people are turning it more into like little track monsters nowadays rather than just stancing them on the ground is really cool in my opinion. Now let's get into the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the way that this works is first I'm going to go over the good, which are just kind of like selling points on the cars. It's kind of hard to argue that there are good things about the car. Next is the bad, which aren't technically bad things. I say this in literally every single one of my good, bad, and uglies, and people still get mad when I put things in this category. It is mind-blowing how people get so angry about like the things that I put in the bad category, even though I tell them directly to their face that I'm not saying that they are actually bad things that I hate about the car. They're just things that you might want to take into consideration before buying it. That's all. It might not affect you. It might affect you. I don't know. It depends on you as a person. And then the ugly are things that are actual issues, that are just common issues. Everybody has them. You're going to have to deal with them, and they might be pretty severe. Without further ado, let's get right into the good though. And first up for the good is the price. Again, these cars are all over the place. There's pretty much a price range for anybody out there. If you want an E46 and you have $1,000, you can find one. If you want an E46 but you got 50K, you can find one. The availability is also a good thing. There's a ton of them out there. Pretty much wraps into the price thing. Next is the community is massive. Pretty much any BMW guy is going to be in your community, but even on top of that, just the E46 community in general has a lot of people in it, so that's pretty cool too. Next is the aftermarket support is massive. Again, it's a very popular car. When cars are popular, they get more aftermarket support. Surprise! Next is it has rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive options. Pretty much just fits anybody's needs right there. I personally like rear-wheel drive cars better, but if you live somewhere where there's snow, I do, but if you live somewhere where there's snow and you make good decisions, then you could buy the all-wheel drive one. And next is everybody who drives them says they feel like such a good driver's car, and that's kind of the thing about BMW that I love so much. If you know me, you know I like BMWs, and I like Hondas too, and the reason why is because they're both praised for that. They feel like good driver's cars. They're responsive. They handle well. It's fun to drive them, not just to slam on the gas and have it go fast in a straight line. If you want that, yeah, you buy a Mustang, you buy a Camaro, you buy a Challenger. But in terms of driving them, this car feels good. It's what everybody says. Obviously I haven't driven one, but that's what everybody says in terms of the E46. Next is there's all kinds of build options for whatever person you are. We already went over that in terms of the community thing, but yeah, pretty much whatever you want to do to this car, you can do it, and it'll probably handle it pretty well. Next is the luxury is very good for an early 2000s car. My friend Ben had one. I sat in the passenger seat. it feels like a 2000s car for sure, but more of like a late 2000, you know, like a 2009 to 2010 kind of car. And that's impressive. Good job, BMW. My nose is bleeding. Gonna have to deal with it. Next is the price will only continue to rise if you take good care of it. This obviously depends on the trim level, quality of the car, mileage, all that kind of thing, if it's a manual, if it's an automatic. But if you spend your money wisely and get like a 328i coupe that has, you know, pretty decent low mileage with a manual transmission, and you just take good care of it, you could definitely make some money out of this in a couple of years. And finally, for the good, is the E46 is a very respected car within the community, even outside of just the BMW community. I feel like nobody's gonna go around being like, I hate E46s, they're the worst car ever built, because they're just not. They're really good cars, and I feel like most people just like them. I cleaned up my bloody nose there. I don't know why that happened. It was like I was doing cocaine. But anyway, next up is the bad. Again, you morons. It is not actually things that I like hate about this car and things that I'm telling you like this car freaking sucks. The bad is just here as a fun little way to make the good, bad, and ugly work. You know what I mean? But in reality, what the bad means is just pretty much just problems you might want to look at before buying it. First up is the sound. I put the sound here for every single one of my cars because it's obviously 100% up to your personal preference. And so here's a clip. Next is the looks. Same thing. It's obviously up to your personal preference. If you think it looks good, that's good. If you don't think it looks good, that's good too, I guess. I don't know. I think it looks good, but that's up to you. Next for the bad is every build kind of seems the same. Again, I mean, pretty much that's how it is with most popular cars nowadays. 350Zs all look the same. Hellcats all look the same. Any other BMW all looks the same, but that is how it is with the E46. They kind of all just fall under the same category. Next is it's definitely not the fastest car out of the gate. It just kind of suffers from like the Mark IV Supra R34 GTR problem, where they were fast when they were released, but they're old, you know. In order to keep them up with today's cars, you're gonna have to obviously put some money into them. However, that's the good thing about the M3 E46 at least, is that it can handle that power, so God bless them. Next up is going to buy one is scary, since they're all been beaten up like crazy. Everybody that wants to buy one right now to go drift it, just remember that people have done the exact same thing before you, so keep an eye out when you're trying to buy one of these things. It's definitely not the easiest, like definitely not a beginner-friendly car to go purchase. Next is they're not cheap at all to maintain. It's a BMW. My friend Ben had a BMW and he had to buy a special socket for the car. It took that socket 3 months to come in, and it costed him $150 for one single socket. I was like, are you serious? That thing was that was not cool at all. Next is there's parts aren't everywhere for them. You might think there are, since there are a lot of E46s out there, but they are just sadly not. Like I said with the socket thing, takes some time sometimes. Next is the M3 is ridiculously expensive now. Obviously this doesn't really apply to you if you aren't looking at buying an M3, but if you are looking at buying one, yeah, they're going up in price, man, and it's insane. That it is kind of a good thing, because you know, if you buy one now, you will make money on it, because they're only going to continue to go up. They're definitely not coming down now, but still, they're insanely expensive. Next is the Vanos solenoid. Goes out a lot. It's just a common issue, man. A lot of people say it on the forums. I'm putting it here. I don't even know what that means, but it goes out. Next is the automatic transmission. It's just boring. It's sloggy, unreliable. Just buy the manual. I mean, come on. It's not like the worst automatic in the world, you know. It's not like you're horribly slow. As a matter of fact, the automatic is probably faster than the manual if I had to guess, but come on. Just buy the manual. Next is E46 tax, my bad, is a real pain in the butthole, if you know what I'm saying. E46 tax is just kind of a, in case you don't know, it's just kind of a thing that people use when cars are popular. They use it with drift tax, JDM tax, bro tax, now it's E46 tax. It's just because the E46s are popular, so their prices are going up and up and up and up and up. But again, that's a good thing for you if you're looking at buying one, because yes, they're more expensive now than they were back then, but over, like, they're more expensive. Like if you Kelley Blue Book an E46, for example, the Kelley Blue Book value is going to be lower than the value of the actual car in the market, because E46 tax, you know, it has the tax of being the E46 is what they're trying to say there, and it definitely is annoying, but again, you'll make money on it at least, so that's a good way of looking at it. Next is there's lots of weird electrical issues, like window motor, radio, for example, just early 2000s car electrical issues. It's not anything rare, it happens with a lot of them. Next is there's coolant leaks. I mean, I guess it's a super major problem if you really don't like to deal with any coolant leaks, but it's really not that hard of a fix, so that's why I put it in the bad. And finally, for the bad, is a throttle body actuator. Tends to go out quite a bit. Throttle body stuff is always, that's what was wrong with my 350Z. It had a throttle body issue, and it was the biggest pain in the rear end. So this could either be an absolute nightmare and deserves to go in the ugly, or it could be totally fine and doesn't even deserve to be on this list. But I don't know, I put it here in the bad just to play it safe. All right, but now we're into the ugly, which again are things that are actual problems with the car that you're going to probably have to address before buying one, or after you buy one if you're unfortunate. And first up is the rear subframe has tons of issues with rotting out. It's a very common problem that almost every E46 is going to need at some point. My friend Ben had to do it, and it took him forever to do it because he couldn't find anybody to weld, and it was just a big pain in the rear end. But yeah, E40, make sure you ask, you know, how's the rear subframe? Have you reinforced it? And if they haven't, you're gonna have to. Next is the rear differential. Tends to have some issues, which is odd considering they're such popular drift cars, but that's Germany for you. Rear differential, again, obviously it's a big deal if it does decide to go kablooey. Rear diffs are not cheap parts, that's for sure. But most people just weld the crap out of these diffs anyway and beat them. Like I really don't know how reliable this complaint was, because again, I feel like most people that are complaining about them are probably people that destroy the diffs on their own. Next is, as much as I love the M3 E46, it does really have quite a bit of issues. The rod bearing issues is a big one, which sucks since the engine is so good. But yeah, it's a great car when it runs, but unfortunately it just does seem to have some issues. Now, most likely people that are buying the M3 E46 they're not going to use it as like a daily, you know what I mean? So they know that if any issues happen, they can just park it in the garage and fix it over a couple of months period and don't have to worry about it too much. So obviously it's not that big of an issue for those guys, but it's definitely something that I would just, I guess, keep into consideration if you haven't known that already. And finally, for the ugly, is the oil filter housing also tends to go out. There's definitely some major issues on this car, but I personally think the pros massively outweigh the cons. Like, yes, is the oil filter, oh my god, is the oil filter housing going out a pretty big issue? Yeah, but at the same time, is that something that's going to make you like walk away from the car like, oh, this car might have an oil filter housing issue, better not buy it now? I don't really think it will be. But now let's go over my final thoughts. This is probably going to be a really long good, bad, and ugly, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about with these cars. First up, for the daily driver boys, if you're looking for just a daily driver and that's it, like you just literally just need a daily to get you from work to back in time, definitely not. There are so many better options out there if you just need a daily driver. The problems are just too heavy to be considered a good daily driver. If you literally don't care about cars at all, don't care about having a fun car or whatever, just buy a Camry. It really is just the best option for you. Don't go with someone like this. For a car guy daily, however, which is massively different than just a regular person daily car, definitely not a bad idea, but also not the best one. It depends on your knowledge with German cars and tools that you have available too, because some tools do have to be specially ordered, like I mentioned before. And if you know a lot about German cars and you've worked on them before and you know that you could keep it reliable, then, I mean, yeah, it's a good option. But overall, I think there are definitely a couple of better options out there for car guy daily drivers. As for a Sunday cruiser, if it's like the M3 or like maybe like the 330 Ci ZHP, then yes, it's a good Sunday cruiser because they're so valuable. But otherwise, no, not really. I mean, realistically, man, I hate to be that guy, but if you have like a $4,000 car, my car's $3K, you know, I'm not trying to like flex on people or anything like that, but if you have like a $4,000 car, it's not that special. You know, you don't got to keep it locked away in the garage and only drive it once per week. You know, just have fun with it. It's 4K for a reason. If it blows up, you'd crash it, you'd destroy it, just go buy another one. You know, if it's the M3 though, or the 330 Ci, yeah, maybe that one makes a little bit more sense, because those are definitely more expensive. As for the race car or project car guys, if you're looking for a race car, then this is definitely the best option for you. Possibilities are endless, and I think you'll have a lot of fun building one of these cars, especially since, yes, I said before that all the builds are the same. That's how I kind of feel about it, but you can make it however you want to. Like I said, like you could do like a rally build if you wanted to, dude. Just most of the time people do tend to go the same route, but that doesn't mean that you have to, because these cars have so much aftermarket support, and just pretty much anything that you want to do to it, you can do, which is really cool. So it's definitely a really good option if you're looking for like a race car or a project car. But ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of today's video on the good, the bad, and the ugly on the BMW E46. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this. Let me know what other videos you'd like to see in the comment section down below. I am getting pretty tired, so I gotta stop filming, edit this video, upload this video, and then go night night. I fixed my sleep schedule. I don't know if you guys noticed that in my last video. I talked about it at the end of the video. But yeah, I fixed my sleep schedule, and so I've been really getting just so tired so early lately. It's a weird feeling, because before that I was falling asleep late into the night, and now it's only like 8 o'clock, and I'm like, ooh, getting a little doozy over here. I feel like an old man. I'm gonna need to go take my Tums and go up to bed. Actually, probably will take my Tums actually and go up to bed. I probably will do that. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. Das Vidania, and have a nice night.